There are now mental health programs for kids that are shutting down. It's a really cruel thing to do to those kids. So did you think about the impact? You cite to a statute, an authority that Congress has given you.
I've got lined up for us some pretty spicy clips of Democratic Senator Chris Murphy just lighting up the Education Secretary Linda McMahon over her and the Trump administration's unforgivable attempts and actions towards gutting mental health grants and attempt to, of course, pay for their rich guy tax cuts. So if you can, start by leaving us a like on the video. It gives us a huge boost. We're on the road to 20K subscribers. We'd really appreciate it. And let's keep our fact checks ready for this one.
Earlier this year, you did something extraordinary. You canceled $1 billion worth of existing ongoing grants to schools all across the country. And it's extraordinary because you didn't cut off new grants, you cut off existing grants. So in states all across the nation, blue and red, there are now mental health programs for kids that are shutting down, and kids who have been relying on really important adults in their life, these counselors and social workers, are losing access. You know Connecticut very well. You shut off a program that provides mental health resources to kids in crisis in Northwest Connecticut. When they did a survey of these kids and asked the kids who are in this particular program who the one adult was who they would go to if they were in mental health trouble or in response to a trauma, every single one of those kids in that program named the counselor funded by this program.
And now, of course, because Donald Trump wants a tax break on $11 million homes and yachts, these kids will no longer have that very outlet that is the most important to them in dealing with trauma and other mental health complications, per their own words. And I can give insider perspective to this as well, as this is the job I've largely done the last 9 years with mental health. The biggest thing in terms of education, both functionally in their life and in academics, is consistency. Consistency not in just the methods of teaching them, but the routine and, more importantly, the people in their lives. And to have that ripped from you on a whim, I mean, that's devastating. It's unjustifiable, especially when we all know the reason is so the wealthy can get $2 trillion in tax cuts. These grants allowed for more counselors in the schools, led to nearly 14,000 more mental health professionals in these schools, something that the lack of is one of the biggest issues plaguing all schools in this country.
How did you weigh the impact that, again, these kids in Northwest Connecticut, they literally say, this adult is the most important adult in my life. And you made a decision to shut down that program. And this can be replicated all over the country. How did you weigh the impact on those kids? It's a really cruel thing to do to those kids. So did you think about the impact on those kids?
Well, I certainly can't evaluate every particular program in every school district across the state. There are some areas that need mental health more than there are others. And there were programs in the mental health program that did deal with DEI and with gender issues, et cetera.
And there you have it, front and center. The MAGA perspective is literally, some of you don't deserve mental health care because all of the rich deserve tax breaks. They literally think also they can just say DEI about anything and it'll justify them stealing mental health services away from poor children, which, to be fair to them, with their basis lack of critical thinking skills, it might work. They might just hear DEI and agree with it. No research done. Now, on gender, some would obviously pertain to gender because gender dysphoria exists. Trans kids with depression, anxiety, or other mental illnesses exist. Like, these are human beings, and these sick freaks just want all trans kids to kill themselves or something. It's so blatantly obvious. As the party of pro-life, might I add, right? We know that social emotional learning interventions can lead to better emotional control in academics for students, among other benefits, with the full scope of mental health services in schools, helping attendance, stronger mental health, access to care, and earlier identification of mental health complications. Why would we not want this for our children? I thought we were party of pro-life. Why does that stop at birth? And why would we continue choosing billionaires over these poor kids?
You told them that they had to end all of their diversity programs, but that they had to institute viewpoint diversity. That doesn't seem to make sense. How do you tell them to end all their diversity programs? And we assume that this is a mandate that you will make of other schools as well. How do you ask them to end diversity programs while instituting viewpoint diversity? Those seems to be totally contradictory.
No, the diversity programs that we've asked and demanded to be eliminated were the DEI, where they were, those programs actually were pitting one group against another.
Isn't viewpoint diversity a diversity program?
A viewpoint diversity is exchange of ideas that's actually better, absolutely.
Where
now
in-
here, because Harvard only has 3%, by its own numbers, 3% conservative faculty, do you think they are allowing enough of viewpoint diversity through that teaching
Where
on
in
campus?
where in the statute does it give you the ability to cut off federal funding for a university based upon your decision, your determination that they don't have viewpoint diversity? Can you cite to a statute, an authority that Congress has given you?
There, of course, isn't a statute, and if there was one, she, of course, could not name it. But I do want to paint this picture for you because it is really important. Conservatives actively do not want and fight against diversity of culture, but then push really hard for diversity of thought. They only want the diversity that they feel benefits their white-centric view of the world. Diversity of thought allows for conservative extremism. It allows for those like Donald Trump. It allows for Christian nationalism, the Charlie Kirks of the world, bigotry, racism, this kind of hatred, all the things that they're comfortable being around, and because it benefits the oppressor, right? And that's why they push for it so heavily, because they are on top of the power imbalance. But diversity of culture could lead to a world where America isn't a white majority country, something that frightens them greatly. So they push back like hell against it. So we have this weird paradox that conservatives believe they're persecuted in thought and say we need more diversity there. They're saying they're persecuted politically and they need the electoral college, which is literal DEI for smaller states. But the second it's about diversity for minority cultures, it becomes an issue to them. And that is what should be focused on and what the why should be asked about.